Hey, Sabrina here, and I wanted to have a chat with you today because a little bit ago we were talking about confidence and the difference between having confidence versus really just having a fear of failure or really just pushing up against that wall of self-esteem, and what are the differences and what can we do about it. But before I get into that, I wanted to introduce you to my co-host today, Mr. Winston. Yay! And Mr. Winston likes to be next to me all the time, so I had to get him his own chair right here so he could be with me the whole time, cheering me on and giving me confidence. All right, so what I'd love to do today is just share with you a few things that I've done when I have felt not comfortable in my skin, not relaxed enough to be my full potential, where I want to be 100% game on, and yet some percentages of me are outside of me, looking at me. I don't know if you've ever had that. It's a horrible feeling, right? Where maybe you're having a conversation with someone, or you're doing something, or you're on film, and you actually feel like another one of yourselves outside of you, judging you and looking at you, right? So the first thing that I do is, when possible, depending on what the situation is I move into the environment that I'm going to be in that's making me a little nervous. Let's say you're going to speak on a stage or be in a certain location, whatever it is. Sometimes that new environment, the newness of things, brings on more easily fear and insecurities. When we've been in an environment over and over, it starts to feel like home and we feel really good. So if I'm going to speak on stage, I always make sure that I get there the day before, and I go and I stand on the stage, right? And I look around and I imagine people there, and I imagine them looking at me. And I really feel like I'm here to serve. And I let any feelings that would come up the next day come up right then. And I stand on the stage or wherever it is, maybe it's sitting at a desk, and I feel like this is home, I belong, I have the right to be here, and this is beautiful, and I'm here to serve. And that really keeps me from being afraid in environments that I'm not used to. And that's really actually a big one for me, because I feel a lot from the space that I'm in. So the more often I'm in the space, the more I feel like I can be myself in the space. And the next thing is that I find that the first time I do something, that's the time it's really scary. Like if I was ever in a show, or I had to do a talk, or I had to do a pitch, or I had to make an offer for the first time, that first time is when, man, chitter chatter, all that, those voices that just feel like I'm not quite sure really kick in. So what I do is, a few days before the real first time, is I kind of play with that part of my mind that gets nervous, and I actually say, oh my gosh, this is it. It's time. It's the webinar. You're making your offer. You've never done it before. Who knows what's going to happen? Go ahead. And I practice under that kind of stress, so that when it really happens, it seems like nothing, because I've already done it. Right? So I get rid of that like opening night jitters. And I actually started doing that when I was doing a lot of dance performances and acting, because I found that it was opening night that I would get short of breath, right? And when I was short of breath, or my heart would beat too fast, my balance would be off, my timing would be off. I wouldn't be funny, or I wouldn't hit my mark. I wouldn't remember my lines. So if I allowed myself to feel those feelings ahead of time, which to me feel like a fear of the animal, feels very animal to be scared, and just go ahead and allow it and move through it without judgment, so that when the actual time came, I had already dealt with it and experienced it and knew that it was fine. Now, the third thing, and this one really, really helps me a lot, is, so I've done some emceeing And one of the things that I've done is I emceed a charity event that I created, and it would sell out to 1,000 people. And it was a very high ticket item. So in my head, I had judged that these are high society people, 1,000 of them sitting there looking at me and judging me, and am I going to be enough, and is my dress enough, and do I speak well enough, blah blah blah, right? So knowing why there would be some kind of fear really helped me be more on my game. And I realized that for some reason I was assuming that they were going to judge me. And why would I assume that? So I thought, what if I flip it? What if I think these are 1,000 of my biggest fans, my family, my friends, and they're just like, yay, Sabrina, get out there on stage. We love you. Go, go, go. You're awesome. Let us help you raise money for abused kids. We're on your team. We're all here to have fun. And when I changed what I was projecting on those people, it really helped me to show up more authentically who I am. Why? Because I was projecting on them some kind of judgment, right? From the past, a bunch of old limiting thoughts, teachers not good enough, yada, 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 right? So that's another really good one. And then a fourth thing that I have done for confidence is when I feel like I'm just not ready, I don't have all that it takes for whatever the situation is calling. In those moments, I feel like I step into the skin of someone that I really admire, usually bigger than I need to be. So I'll use Latin dancing as an example. So when I was doing competitive Latin ballroom dancing, I was really self-conscious to do these moves that look so sexy. I loved doing them, but I felt like, I'm just me. Like, it seems so big for who I feel like I am as a personality. And so I would pretend to be maybe like RuPaul or something so much bigger, so much exaggerated, with no holding back, or the world champion Latin dancer who didn't hesitate to make that face, almost a caricature of what I wanted to be. So I would stretch myself beyond what I needed because it was really easy to pull it back. And then when I was coaching a lot of people on performing or speaking on video, I found that to be such a good tool that I would pull them beyond the energy that was needed, beyond the character that was needed, beyond the energy that was needed. And then it's really easy to pull it back. And when you're comfortable being that big, then it's easy to be comfortable just a little bit smaller. And then the last little confidence tip is that when I would feel, I'm just going to call it the heebie-jeebies, and it so feels like I'm totally beyond it psychologically, right? And too mature. I'm past it. Why is the body shaking a little bit or short of breath? And I would do like questioning. Okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, well, maybe these people don't sign up for your thing, or the audience doesn't like you, right? And when you go to the end of your life and you reflect back on what your life was about, who cares, right? We get so wound up over these tiny little things that big picture doesn't matter. And if I can make it laughable and really remember that ultimately it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in every single moment is that I show up 100% the best version of myself, saying yes to love, offering quality content, really helping people get to where they are, to where they want to be, being in integrity, and being just so full of love and sharing that. And then don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Don't worry about being the version of me that someone else thinks I need to be, because that's where the insecurity will come in and you won't feel confident because you think you need to be something that you're not. You are already completely what you need to be. That's why you have no competition, by the way. You have no competition. You're the absolutely best version of you. No one can compete with that. So as long as we show up being 100% us, fully confident in that, it's a win-win every time. So I would love to know, what kind of tips do you have? What techniques do you use in those moments that something comes up and gives you the little heebie-jeebies and shakes at your confidence? What do you do to push past it? Or maybe, what do you think of the tips that I've shared? Implement them and let me know. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'd love to hear your comments below and I will definitely respond. And if you're watching it on the blog, I'd love to hear back wherever you're watching it. Let me know what you think. And until next time, just keep sharing the love and being fully who you are, confident and beautiful.